lips, those eyes. One look and I must rhapsodize.
Hi, musicians and music fans. Today I want to talk about success. I'm not holding myself up as a model of success, although, well, let's define what is success. For me, success is living a life that I love. Every day I wake up and everything I do, I love doing it. 24/7. I wish the days were longer. I wish the days were 35, 40 hours long so I could get to do all the stuff I want to do every day. For me, that's success. Money, fame, I never really cared much about either of those. As long as I have enough money to take care of my needs and I can live in a nice place and do things that I love to do, that's enough for me. I don't really want to be famous where people recognize me on the street and stop me and rip my clothes off. I remember seeing Paul Newman on TV once about 1960 something or other, and he says, they asked him about his fame. He was a very, very famous movie star at the time. He says, it's really a drag. He said, women come up to me on the street and they rip my clothes off. I said, I don't want that. I'd like to be like a normal person and be able to go out to dinner without people bothering me. And so, yeah, I never wanted anything like that. I'd just like to be well known enough that I can work. That's what I want. I want to be able to work because that's what I love doing. My son is a very successful businessman. And I asked him one day, what is it with all these really rich people, billionaires and people like that? Why do they have to keep making so much money at the expense of everybody else? And he says, it's because for them, they have a need to win every day. Well, I have a need to win every day. And for me, winning every day is spending a life in music. That's a win for me. Now, I've been in the music business for 50 years. I started out when I was in high school. I had my jazz idols, and I said, well, I don't know that I can make a living in jazz. It's kind of a niche market. But at that time, this is the 1950s, 1960s, there were arrangers who wrote record dates for singers. Singers would come to New York and hire an arranger, and the arranger would write all these arrangements for the singer to record and hire an orchestra and conduct that orchestra or band. And so I made sure that I trained myself to be able to do that I would be one of the best people in that field. That was my goal. And I wanted to, and I figured once in a while, record companies that I worked for, they would throw me a bone and I could make a jazz record of my compositions and arrangements. And that would be enough for me. I didn't really think I could have a band that would go on the road like Count Basie and Duke Ellington. That world was really coming to an end. So there are some secrets to success. First one, find what you love. For me, that was a no-brainer. I loved music from the time I was an infant. My mother would play the piano in the afternoon in the living room, and I loved it. I had to do this. I just started playing the piano and started playing trumpet in fourth grade, and discovered jazz the first day of seventh grade. And then I knew that's what my life was going to be about. That's what I had to do. I had to have a life in the jazz world, and I figured out, okay, I can write for singers, and I can write for orchestras and bands. I'll be good. I like playing the trumpet. I didn't figure that I would be able to compete with Clark Terry and Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie and Thad Jones. As much as I tried, I didn't think I had the talent to do that, but I could have a modest career as a trumpet player, but I could have a very good career as an arranger because I very quickly developed some skills. I read books, I listened to a lot of recordings, and I identified my strengths. What were my gifts? I am a very good organizer, and that's the number one thing you need as an arranger, as a composer. You're an organizer of sounds. So I recognized this about myself, that I was good at that, and I developed my skills. I worked very hard. Maybe some people were more gifted than me, but we all are limited to 24 hours a day. And I spent most of my days and evenings honing my craft, studying, writing arrangements. I wrote about 50 arrangements when I was in high school, and way more than that in college. And I was working professionally in college as an arranger. And then after college, I was in New York City and began my career. And it took a while. It took 5 years until I was making a reasonable living. I was very persistent. I noticed that some people came to New York and in 6 months they were gone, or in a year they were gone. They said, this isn't for me. I need more grass. I need, lifestyle here is too hard. I don't want to scuffle. Let me get a teaching job somewhere. I'll teach kids rather than work with my heroes. I wasn't willing to give up working with my heroes. I wanted to do that, and frankly, I got to work with quite a few of my heroes in my career, quite a few. Made me very happy, and it still does. My memories of all that, and I still get to work with a lot of them. All right, so there's two baseball players, two of the greatest hitters of all time. They had their advice about hitting. Ted Williams, his advice was, don't swing at anything that you can't hit. And George Brett's advice was, wait for a fastball and swing at it. Don't swing at anything else. So pretty similar advice. So what is that? How does that translate for what we do? Do what you're good at. Figure out what you're good at. Identify your weaknesses in your field and what it is that you maybe say you're an arranger. I play the trumpet and I'm really good at writing for brass, but I don't really know much about the saxophones and the woodwinds. Well, then you got to learn. Whatever your weaknesses, you got to shore those up. Like for players, everybody's weakness is rhythm. You have to work on rhythm. That's the hardest thing to do, and the absolute hardest thing to do in music is swing. It's the playing. Swinging is the hardest. Yeah, that's like hitting a baseball is the hardest thing in sports. Swinging is the hardest thing in music. And so we need to work at that all the time. All the best people. I talked to Wynton Marsalis about it, and he said, he was the one that said it to me. He said, everybody needs to work on that. Nobody's born with that. You have to constantly hone it. I agree. I mean, I was pretty good at it from the start, but I worked on it. I didn't accept anything less than the best I could do. And in fact, I didn't accept anything less than the best I could do at anything in my career. I was willing to work harder than everyone else. Clark Terry said that your attitude needs to be, I'm going to be the baddest MF out there. And he did pretty well. Be nice to people. That's really important. Be nice to everybody. You never know who can help you or who can hurt you. And more than that, when you're nice to everybody, it makes you a better person and a happier person. Be positive. No one wants to be around negative people. I noticed early on in my career, there were people that worked in the studios all the time that weren't very good players. But they were nice to everybody and they were really positive. And so they worked all the time. And there were people who was tremendously talented, but they were negative and nobody really wanted to hire them. And then there are people that were just so good that people hired them anyway. So these are important things. Don't make excuses. When you do something wrong, you offend somebody, you make a mistake, don't say, oh, my shoes were untied, or I have a cold today. Nobody wants to hear that stuff. Just say, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And then make sure that you do better next time. Surround yourself with people who love you, who like you, who love you, people that want to be part of your vision. I started my first band in 1971, and we kept together into the 80s. And then I was with Lincoln Center. And then after that, did the Harlem Nutcracker. We put a band together to do that, and that was in 1996. And that same band is, most of the people are that are in the band now, all these decades later, they've been with me since 1996. Two of the people in the band, our drummer, Jimmy Madison, and our lead trumpet player, Bob Milliken, have been with me since 1971. We've spent almost our entire careers together. They love my music. I love their playing. It works well for all of us. Don't worry about making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You may be embarrassed, and you may think, everybody's watching me. People aren't watching you. Nobody really cares that much about you. I had a wife once she had a terrible sense of direction. And so when she would get out of the subway, she'd start walking and then realize like a half a block later that she was walking in the wrong direction. And she'd feel so embarrassed, like everybody on the street is watching her. And I said, nobody's watching you. Nobody cares. That really helps when you know that you can make mistakes. And people accept it. Everyone expects you to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's human, right? To err is human. We've all heard that. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people will do what the unsuccessful people won't do. I was willing to spend a zillion hours studying how to write music and getting my music played, copying parts, and doing all these things people won't do. I've written thousands of arrangements in my life. Who wants to do that? Very few people could sit for all those hours and do that. But to me, it's enjoyable. So I do it. And also I have this goal in mind. I want to be the best arranger and composer that I can be, best band leader that I can be, so that I can work with the best people and make the best music. That's really important to me, that the music be great. So I need to do my best. Don't worry that your career isn't going to happen for you, or that whatever your goals are, I want to do this project. Don't worry, that's not going to happen. It's already started happening. Just by you having that idea in your mind and going for your goal, you've put things in motion. The universe, I believe that the universe takes care of all of us and gives us what we really want, but the universe doesn't always work on our time schedule. So have confidence that things will happen. I worried a lot when I was young. When I was in my 20s, I worried a lot that I wasn't going to get to have the career that I wanted to have. Little by little it happened, but I worried. I was very depressed actually in my early 20s. I wasn't working, and I was seeing a psychiatrist, and every week I would go in and I would say, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. And she said to me after a while, every week you come in here and you say, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. And then the phone rings, you get a job and you pay the rent. Why don't you just believe that the universe is going to take care of you? It's like if you had a store and you're worried, oh, nobody's going to come into my store. Well, if you have good products to sell and it's an appealing, your store looks appealing and the prices are right, people will come into your store. You have to have that confidence. Also, worrying is not going to make things happen. It just makes you miserable. So stop worrying. You got to roll with punches. Life is going to give you a lot of surprises. It didn't turn out the way I thought it would. The industry changed tremendously in my life. I wound up teaching. I never thought I'd be a teacher. I taught college for 30 years. I never thought I would do that. I was an adjunct for 30 years. I had a career, but I needed to supplement my income, and I was a teacher, and I After a while, I became a very good teacher. I really love teaching. I still love teaching. I'm teaching right now. I'm talking to you. You're not going to get called for every gig. Just accept that. Well, I'm really good at this. How come they didn't call me? Well, maybe they didn't know you. Maybe they have a friend they'd rather give the job. Well, there's going to be lots of reasons. You're not going to get called for everything, and you couldn't take them all if you did get called for all. So don't worry about it. Be happy for the people that did get called. And tell them that you're happy for them. When a friend of mine is successful, or even people that I just know and I see them, I'll congratulate them. And I'll mean it. I'm happy for people that can work in the music business. It's a very hard business. Share your knowledge and your love with everyone. I think that's really important. I'm very generous. I'll tell you all the secrets to my writing. And I'm telling you some secrets to how I do my business right now. If you called me up and you say that you have an assignment and you don't know how to write for this instrument, can I give you some advice? I'm very happy to give you the advice. I can't do this with the whole world, but believe me, not that many people call me up. So I love teaching lessons. If someone wants to take a lesson with me, I'm very happy to spend an hour or two with them. I think I probably enjoy it more than they do. When I was growing up, my aunt, I was very close with my aunt. She lived with us part-time, and she was the most generous person. And I said to her one day, "You give us kids everything. You take us everywhere." She used to take me to jazz clubs. She bought me a zillion jazz records. She would take me to Broadway shows. I mean, she did everything for us. If ever we wanted something, she would buy it for us. You didn't ever have to ask her. She'd just do it. And so I said to her one day, "Do all this stuff, great stuff for us, and we never give you anything." And she said, "Oh, it's much more pleasurable to give than to receive." And I said, "That's crazy." She said, "One day you'll know that." And I can tell you that when I had children, I learned that. And I've become a much more generous person. I really love sharing my knowledge. It's really important to me to do that. I'm very happy to do it. And I think being generous is, it makes the world a better place to live in. I watched a lecture recently with it was on the internet, the Harvard business professor. And he said that one of the big problems for people in general, but businesses for sure, is that we don't see the big picture. And he gave this example of, in 1950, there were a lot of railroad companies around America. 200. There's a lot of railroad companies. People traveled by rail a lot in those days. And so they had all this extra money. They were doing really well because it was boom times in America. The economy was great. And so they invested in new equipment and new cars. And not one of them thought about buying an airline. And at that time, you could have bought Delta Airlines for a song. But no company even asked. 20 years later, by 1970, everybody was traveling by plane. And all those railroad companies, every single one of them had gone bankrupt by 1970 because they all said, well, we're not in the airplane business, we're in the railroad business. So what business are you in? I mean, am I just in the arranging business, arranging and composing business, the jazz business, the teaching business? I mean, I have to look at all the things that I can do and all the things that I'm good at. We're all more than one thing. When my second marriage was falling apart, we went to a marriage counselor. And at one point she said to me, so who are you? And I said, oh, I'm a musician, I said proudly. And she said, I didn't ask you what you do. I asked who you are. And I said, well, I don't understand the difference. She said, well, do you do things outside? When you're not doing music, who are you? What are you? I said, well, I'm a father. I said, are you a good father? Yeah, I'm a good father. I really enjoyed it. Our lives, we wear a lot of hats. We're bigger people than just when I'm holding a pencil in my hand writing an arrangement. And we need to be great artists. We need to lead a large life. Phil Woods, his advice was, read a book. Have experiences in life. Because if you don't, when you stand up to play a solo, you got nothing to say. So who are you? Live large and live a full life. Very important to go after your dream. When you're on your deathbed, you're not going to regret the things that you did. Oh, well, I made this mistake, no, you may. The only regrets you may have, if you have any, are for the things that you didn't do. Gee, I wish I did that. And it may seem scary. I have this dream. I want to play at Carnegie Hall. Well, why not? Go after it. Whatever it is that you want to do, live your dream. That's my advice. See you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
When you come to the end of a perfect